go, right? So let's join together in our hearts and our minds and open in prayer. Today we are centered with unity in the heart of the Twin Cities in St. Paul, Minnesota. And we want to hold all our brothers and sisters in prayer this morning that are in the Minnesota area. And so we just hold them in light and love, and we join together in prayer with them across the many miles. Mighty currents of God's healing love flows through us now. Here today, renewing and restoring us and all of the human race. Centered in divine love, we are a harmonious presence together. We work together for good. We are God's love in action. We are how God gets around. And we are grateful. We give thanks that we have this knowledge and this power within us to be that harmonious presence in the world right now. And so it is. Amen. So we have a few announcements, the same ones basically. On Tuesdays at 11 a.m., Ruth is hosting our Silent Unity prayer service in Zoom. If you haven't joined us already, please plan to join us for that. It's a great time for us to connect together in prayer. On Tuesdays at 5:30, Chris Fairshon is leading us in a guided meditation, and that is fabulous as well, very healing and loving. And so if you can join us for that. And if Tuesday doesn't work, we have Wednesday at 5:30. Kieran is leading us in a gathering meditation, and please join us for that meditation. And as of recently, we have been working with the youth between the ages of 14 and 18, and Nate has been involved in this. Every other Sunday, Unity of Springfield is hosting a Zoom room. As of last week, we opened it up to the Great Lakes region. And so we're hoping that in the next newsletter that will generate some interest from families and churches that are smaller, and that we might be able to include them in our online connection for the 14 to 18-year-olds. Just wanted you to know, because that's some good news. So we have an affirmation here at Unity of Springfield. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God, the source of all good. We have a vision statement. A world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of shared spiritual awakening. And our mission statement. We recognize God is love, individualized in all people. Therefore, we provide a positive environment for spiritual growth that empowers all to be God's love in the world. And our daily word today, May 31st, is love. And Ann Capros will share the daily word with us today.
Daily word, as the Reverend said, is love. And the affirmation, or the invocation, or the vocare, the call, I'm a loving presence to everyone I meet. That is my vocation. Sunday, May 31st, 2020, it has been said that the world needs more love. The truth is that all the love the world could ever need is already present everywhere, because God is love and God is present everywhere. Created in God's image, I am divine love in human expression. I know that love is much more than a positive feeling. Divine love is the energy of oneness itself. As I remain centered in divine love, I know oneness in God with all people, including those who are dear to me and those I've never met. Divine love helps me see good everywhere and in everyone. I look beyond conflict and limitation and find the good that is always mine to discover. And from John chapter 4, verse 7, beloved, let us love one another, because love is from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. Again, the daily word is love, and the affirmation or vocation or vocare, let's read it together. I am a loving presence to everyone I meet. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. And our song to get us prepared for meditation today is Cathy Bolton's A Call to Change.
It's a call to pray for all the world, a call to pray for humankind, a call to pray, brothers and sisters. It's a call to change our minds. It's a call to change old ways of thinking, a call to change what used to be, a call to change the things not working. It's a call to change you and me. To make a difference, we have the knowledge within our grasp. We have the wisdom so deep within us. Here and now, the future of the past. It's a call to live our highest vision, a call to live our grandest dream, a call to live with peace around us, in joy and harmony. Difference. We have the knowledge within our grasp. We have the wisdom so deep within us. Here and now, the future of the past. It's a call to pray, to change, a call to live, a call to give, a call to pray, a call to change, a call to live, a call to give. It's a call to change.
So I invite you to just breathe into this moment. And as you breathe out, to release anything that has been causing you pain or stress and anxiety. Just release that and let it go. Allow those thoughts that occupy our minds sometimes to just be released. Allow them to just fly away for the moment. And to center in the knowing of peace and tranquility. That sacred space that lives within our hearts. We open our hearts, we open our mind to God's universal, divine life and wisdom. And this is that sacred space where we can reach that, where we can connect, where we can check in, where we can leave all our troubles. This is a place where it is safe for us, where we are connected to that divine mind with a well of infinite wisdom. And so we just take some time here in the sacredness of the silence and the quiet and connect with that source, the source that brings us light and love. And having been blessed by this time and the sacredness of the quiet and the sacredness of our heart space, we feel that love. We sense that love, the divine love that lives within each of us. We feel more at peace, if even only for a moment. And we know we can come back to this peaceful place anytime we need a refresher. Grateful for this knowing and this understanding. We prepare to return to this world and this time, and as we open our eyes and become more aware of our surroundings, we take that peace with us into this day and into this week. Grateful for this opportunity to connect with the sacred and the divine. We're able to connect to the truth of who we are. Sacred, divine, child of God, and full of love. So it is. Amen. So we are going to be talking about the law of attraction today. I know our Sunday morning class was talking about that a couple weeks ago, but I'm just guessing that there's going to be something that adds to that conversation and what takes place in the Sunday morning class today. I have a little story about how the law of attraction works this morning. There once was a little boy who wanted to meet God, and he knew it was going to be a long trip to where God lives, so he packed his suitcase with Twinkies and a 6-pack of root beer, and he started his journey. And when he had done about 3 blocks of walking, he met an older woman, and she was sitting in the park just staring at some pigeons. So the boy sat down next to her, and he opened his suitcase, and he was about to take a drink from his root beer when he noticed that she looked like she might be hungry. So he offered her a Twinkie, and she gratefully accepted and smiled at him. Her smile was so pretty that the boy wanted to see it again, so he offered her a root beer. And once again, she smiled at him. And the boy was delighted, he was happy, and they sat there all afternoon eating and smiling without ever saying a word. And as it grew dark, the boy realized how tired he was, and so as he got up to leave, but before he had gone more than a few steps, he turned back around. He ran back to the older woman and he gave her a hug, and she gave him her biggest smile ever. And when the boy opened the door to his own house a short time later, his mother was surprised by the look of joy on his face. And she asked him, "What did you do today that made you so happy?" And he replied, "I had lunch with God." But before his mother could respond, he added, "You know what? She's got the most beautiful smile I've ever seen." Meanwhile, the older woman was also radiant with joy, and she returned to her home, and her son was stunned by the look of peace on her face. And he asked, "Mother, what did you do today that made you so happy?" And she replied, "I ate Twinkies in the park with God." But before her son responded, she added, "You know, he's much younger than I expected." That's how the law of attraction works. You attract to you exactly what you are looking for. That day, they were both looking for an experience of God. Last Monday was Memorial Day, a time set aside to honor those who died protecting the freedoms we have in this country. We have the freedom of speech. We have the freedom to choose where we want to worship. We even have the freedom to openly criticize the very government that provides those freedoms. We have a Constitution and the Bill of Rights that guarantees these freedoms for us, for all of us. This week, a man, George Floyd, died unnecessarily. And there is unrest in this country, not only with a pandemic, but amongst the people. Benjamin Franklin once said, "Justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are." These are cries for change, for peace. Margaret Mead said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." Peace and joy, the pursuit of happiness as American citizens. We all have that right. We all want to experience that peace. You and I and all the generations before and after us are beneficiaries of a small number of people who risked everything to come to this country more than 240 years ago. These people were independent spirits. They were revolutionary thinkers. They were willing to fight for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and it is still happening today. Let's think about that for a second. The idea of the pursuit of happiness was a very radical concept for its time in 1776. And it's been said that when Thomas Jefferson wrote that line, it was the most radical idea a government leader had ever put before the people. Yet today, the concept of the pursuit of happiness is totally accepted in our country as one of our rights. And one of the most important ways we can be happy, in my opinion, is to own our power and to own our experience, to take responsibility for ourselves. And how do we do that? Through acknowledging the power of our minds and our ability to co-create with divine mind, we can do things peacefully. And we talked about divine mind last week. God as the one divine mind who moves in and through and as each one of us. Aligning with that power is where our true freedom comes from. Today, we are going to focus on the law of mind action. It's also known as the law of attraction and divine law. Whatever we call it, it is spiritual law and it is true. Our thoughts create our reality. Ernest Holmes once wrote, "The law of mind, the giant within and around us, is always creating for us. But what specific direction are we giving it? Our every thought is a direction." And the Buddha said it this way: all that is the result of what we have thought. And in the words of a well-known Unity minister, Ed Rabel, he tells us this about the law of mind action. In Mark chapter 4:25, Jesus said, "For he that hath, to him it shall be given, and he that hath not, from him shall be taken away, even that which he hath." He goes on to say, this is a puzzling statement to literal-minded people, to material-minded people, but to metaphysical thinkers, it makes perfect sense. Jesus is talking about the way the law of mind action works in a person's life. Like attracts like begets like. Thoughts held in mind, you can finish it, produce after their kind. Yes. If a person has a strong faith in God, he or she will develop an abundance consciousness, a prosperity consciousness. And Jesus calls us him that hath. And under the law of mind action, a hath consciousness manifests increased good. I prefer hath. A hath not consciousness is a lack in consciousness, a poverty consciousness, a distrust of God. The same law of mind action will work for that kind of consciousness. And so instead of increase for that person, decrease becomes the experience. It's either a hath to him shall be given law of mind action or a hath not decrease law of mind action. Whom determines which law one is under is us. We do. A friend of mine from seminary recently told me that he ran across a home that was for sale. And he couldn't believe that the home was on the market because he used to be a realtor in the area, and that house he had always admired. It was a fabulous property, and my friend was beside himself because the house was for sale for a large sum of money. He couldn't afford it. He thought. But then he was guided by Spirit to write them a letter. He began with this first: I must apologize for not being able to offer you what you are asking for your beautiful home. I admire and appreciate the love and care you have put into every area of your home and the gardens. It is easy to see and feel the love you have for it. He said, it would be my honor and privilege to care for the property in the same way you have. There is nothing about the house I would even want to change. His offer was accepted. That's how it works. The law of mind action. When we get out of the way, when we trust that infinite wisdom that comes to us, we attract our good to us. There is a very powerful book that churches have been studying for quite some time. And next year, I thought, it might be good to revisit it as a Sunday series. Because if we want to retain our membership in the human race, we ought to be required to reread it every so often because it's that powerful. And the book is The Four Agreements. It talks about the assumptions we make and how our thoughts can lead us into the depths of hell in our own minds or can walk us through the gates of heaven right here on earth. When we are willing to unlearn some unhealthy thought patterns, usually created in childhood, we can recreate our lives to look like the one we want to live and the one God intended us to have. Brian Tracy is a business writer, and he once wrote this: "You are a living magnet. You invariably attract into your life the people, situations, and circumstances that are in harmony with your dominant thoughts. This is one of the great laws that explain much of the success and failure in our business and personal lives. It's been written about as far back as the ancient Egyptian mystery schools 3,000 years before Christ. It is so powerful, pervasive, and all-encompassing that it affects everything you have in your life. Everything you have in your life, you have attracted to yourself because of the way you think, because of the person you are. You can change your life because you can change the way you think." New thoughts. Getting into the minds, into the hearts of people in the business world. This is how we begin to penetrate the business world. Bring thoughts held in mind, produce after their kind, new thought, understanding in the business world. This guy's ahead of his time. He's writing about this in business magazines. And here's something written by Walter D. Wintle. "If you think you are beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you like to win but think you can't, it's almost a cinch that you won't. If you think you'll lose, you're lost. For out in the world we find success begins with a person's will. It's all in a state of mind. If you think you're outclassed, you are. You've got to think high to rise. You've got to be sure of yourself before you can ever win the prize. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man or woman, but sooner or later the one who wins are the ones who think they can." Fabulous quote. The law of mind action means that the circumstances in our lives are attracted to us according to the thoughts that we are holding in our consciousness. Those thoughts and actions that we put our feelings into, our emotions into, our intentions into, those thoughts held steadily in mind are the ones that will be magnets. They will bring people and events into our lives based on what we are thinking. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. That's the law of mind action. Last week, I spoke of the parable of the sower. Seeds are always being planted. However, not all of them take root right away. Mary Mann Morrissey, in her book, Building Your Field of Dreams, writes, "You are the farmer. The field is your life. The earth is available to anyone willing to plant. We grow a crop of life through the thoughts we hold. These thoughts are our seeds given to us from our infinite God. We choose which thoughts to plant and how to care for them. We may nourish these seeds with water and delight in their sprouting, or neglect them entirely. When you begin to plant, you do not know how the field will look when it's fully grown. Yet you believe in a power that's greater than yourself, and you continue to nurture the earth even though it remains bare. Because faith tells you that an abundant crop is readying itself to burst forth. As your field does begin to materialize, you awaken to the power contained in your very hands, and you awaken to the power of God. When you allow God to work through your life, you will reap a dream that is far greater than anything you have dared to imagine. And isn't that great? Because the life we dream of includes abundance, prosperity, loving relationships, health, happiness, peace of mind. What we dream, we create. Sometimes, however, we forget that we hold the power. Lowell Fillmore came up with words of wisdom for us when this happens. He referred to these words of wisdom as metaphysical gadgets. I found this in the Unity archives. Those of you who like to take notes, I'm going to tell you this is something you may want to write down. These are short affirmations, and then I'll tell you how he used them when he used them. Here's the affirmation. I go to meet my good. I go to meet my good. He would use this when he was on his way to an appointment, before he would answer the phone or the door. I go to meet my good. You don't know who's knocking on your door. You're questioning, right? I'm going to meet my good. That's your affirmation before you even open that door. Here's the next one. My heart is right with God. The affirmation, my heart is right with God. He said, use this one when your heart is troubled. When you have worries, when you have concerns, my heart is right with God. The next one, there is nothing lost in spirit. The affirmation, there is nothing lost in spirit. He said he would use this when looking for misplaced items. The next affirmation, I greet the presence and power of God here. I greet the presence and power of God here. He said he would use this when entering a room, his office, or a home, or any building. Anyone he encountered. His affirmation, I greet the presence and power of God here. And the next one is, no man cometh unto me unless the Father sent him. You can edit that one if you want. Unless Spirit sent him. Unless they're here by divine appointment. No man cometh unto me unless by divine appointment. He said he would use this affirmation to prevent gossip and people that wanted to waste time. And the next affirmation is super short, peace. Just one word, to be used when you are afraid or in times of trouble. Great metaphysical gadgets. I love that, how he came up with those affirmations. Ernest Holmes said, the mind is a magnet, and we attract that which we identify. In order to get the most out of life, we must learn consciously to change many of our habitual thought patterns. The thoughts are the seeds. The crop is our life. We will reap what we sow. And in Proverbs 23:7, we read, for as one thinketh in their heart, so are they. What this means is at any given moment, we are setting into motion the causes which will be reaped by us, not only in this present moment, but also in the future. Every moment is an opportunity to change the present, which will inevitably change the future. Charles Fillmore said this: "The firstborn of everything in the universe is an idea in divine mind." And we talked about that last week. It's a creative process. And just to do a short recap, it works like this: mind, idea, expression; architect, idea, blueprint; poet, inspiration, poem; tailor, pattern, suit; cook, recipe, dinner. We like that one. Cook, recipe, dinner. In any moment, we can put a new cause into motion. In any moment, we can change our thinking and change our lives. Next week, we will be talking about the power of the spoken word. So as we go forth this week to create, let's do that, remembering thoughts we hold in mind, produce after their kind. So as we prepare for our time of offertory, in the chat box, we have a link to donate. We also get a link to the donate in our Zoom platform and on our website as well. And you can always send it into the church. We get lots of mail and people are sending in their tithes and love offerings that way as well. And we receive all of them. So thank you. So although our doors are closed, we are an active ministry without walls. That is a beautiful affirmation. We are an active ministry without walls. So I invite you to hold your gift, your tithe into your thoughts and into your imagination, and we just see them as divinely blessed. And so we bless these gifts, we bless these tithes. We are grateful for all that we have, all that we give. And so we are blessed, and so it is. Amen. A special thanks to all of you who continue to support and bless our spiritual community. Also grateful for the new music we had today. That first opening song was fabulous. Cathy Bolton was fabulous and spot on. You can always reach Cathy Bolton and find her music on cathybolton.com. So let's say together our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Namaste.